Hello, and welcome to our first Power Hour of 2025 in partnership with Kudos. I'm your host, Matt Manners, founder of Inspiring Workplaces. And today's session is all about exploring the real drivers of successful modern organizations, culture, and purpose. Two quick things. I've did a bit of an office reorg, and the sun is shining in England. So with those two things combined, I didn't realize that half my face was going to be bathed in sunshine as it is. So I will be making some adjustments before the next Power Hour. But rather than focusing on buzzwords, we'll be hearing from industry leaders who bring practical experience and insights into how purpose-led leadership and a strong organizational culture can improve engagement, performance, and a genuine sense of belonging at work. We'll leave with actionable ideas, relevant examples, and the opportunity to put your questions directly to our expert speakers, if you so wish. So, as always, let's get started. You don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from our speakers. To our first speaker, Tom Short. He is the founder and chief customer officer at Kudos, where he leads the company's thought leadership and works closely with clients to support long-term success. With over 25 years of experience building businesses where employee experience is central, Tom has seen firsthand the impact that meaningful recognition can have on performance, culture, and retention. In today's session, he's going to explore how to assess and improve your current employee recognition strategy, discuss how to identify whether your approach is inclusive, accessible, and actively used, and share practical guidance on building a program that supports engagement and aligns with wider business goals, including how to communicate its value to senior leadership. So without further ado, please welcome, joining us from Canada, I believe, that great country, Tom. How are you, Tom?
I'm good, Matt. Good to see you, and thanks for having us to share what little wisdom we have with your audience. But hopefully it'll be informative and maybe even a little entertaining.
Fantastic. Well, modest as always. And I just want to say I'm liking the updates that we've done since our last Power with the little name tags there. So if anybody was in any doubt, over to you, Tom.
Well, again, thanks. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of this Power Hour talk and everything that we're doing with Inspiring Workplaces. We think you guys are a great organization, always have, and just really pleased to be working with you now to, share all of this, these ideas around building great cultures and inspiring workplaces. In my background, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of how Kudos came to be, how I found myself, creating this company and bringing it forward. It's been about 10 years now that we've been doing Kudos as a global project, selling Kudos around the world. I've had multiple businesses over the years. I'm sad to say I'm in that boomer category. But working with a lot of young people here at Kudos as we develop a great culture tool that's being used globally. But the whole talk today about rethinking your recognition strategy. About 15 years ago, we had to rethink our recognition strategy. One of my previous companies, was a marketing and advertising firm. We had around 350 employees globally. And we were cruising along and doing great. And then 2008 hit, and the rug was kind of pulled out from underneath us. Probably sounds familiar to a lot of people, how the roller coaster ride keeps going. We had to, unfortunately, downsize our company to adjust to the new economic conditions. And of course, it damaged our culture. And so we were looking for different ways to rebuild the love and get everybody back aligned with our goals, our mission, our purpose, our core values, and to certainly demonstrate that we valued everybody that was on the team. And I happened to be just reading in the book at the time, First Break All the Rules by the Gallup organization. And they were doing a metadata study around the Q12 survey, and I was looking at the various questions, and none of the questions had anything to do with money. It all had to do with addressing people, where they were, making sure that they felt valued, making sure that you were building great relationships, and that you were reinforcing their core strengths through various performance management practices and recognition practices. And we really just kind of took the idea and said, wouldn't it be great if we could automate this a little bit? And that's kind of when we stepped into this whole concept of peer-to-peer recognition, where we could include everybody to be a part of the solution. And at that time, back in 2008, 2009, I think we actually kind of really rolled the program out late 2009, 2010. Nobody was really doing peer-to-peer recognition. In fact, when we reached out to other groups to look at strategies and tactics that we could bring into the company through best practices and recognition philosophy, everybody was really stuck on what I always just refer to as the old school way of doing things. It was more on tenure and milestones and plaques and pins and swag gifts, reinforcing various elements, but happening at very different increments. Like, what if it was every year, it was unusual, but 5, 10, 15 major milestones. And that old way of doing things, which was not going to work with our young audience. And that was even because the advertising world is also filled with a lot of young folks. I kind of always feel like it's Logan's Run, like all the old people. Where did they go? There's nobody's around in the advertising world. I guess we all go off to start SaaS companies or something like that. But it was that epiphany at that point in time to say, hey, we should do something different. We created our own product. We were running it internally, and our agency clients started asking us, why are your people so happy? And we highlighted or showed them our product kudos, and they all started asking if they could use it. And that was when we went, wow, I guess nobody's really solved this problem out there. And we were off to the races at that point in time. And since then, we've now got hundreds of clients and hundreds of thousands of users in multiple countries around the world using our system. But the talk today is really more about, is it time for anyone that's on this call today? And most likely it's on your mind if you're here to listen to this. Is it time to rethink your recognition strategy? And it really is almost like history repeats itself. We're in another really drastic time of change. The workforce is changing, where we're now seeing boomers retiring, and millennials and Zs are the main part of the workforce. And what they care about is a lot different than the older generations. And so we have to take a look at that. And it's something I actually heard the other day, which really made me quite laugh, was millennials are making up around 30 to 35, 40% of the workforce as of right now. And the Zs are right behind them as the boomers and Xers are starting to exit stage right. And but at the same time, I also heard that that so much wealth is going to be transferred from boomers to Zs in the next little while. You're going to have to work a lot harder to keep your Zs, because they might not need the money, and what they'll be looking for is more meaning and purpose, and to work with organizations that align to their core values and goals. But really, one of the other things that you need to think about beyond the generational shift is the way people work today. And so we've obviously, since the COVID crisis and everybody being now conditioned to remote work, and some remote hybrid work is coming back as the mainstay, and people are actually being asked to return to the office. So we're again in this big upheaval, and and it does feel a little bit like culture's under assault in that situation. And we, in a lot of ways, have forgotten how to communicate with one another. I do have to admit, love being at home and working, but then again, I'm one of the older people on the team, and I'd be one of the ones that would be mentoring folks versus needing the mentoring. And so there is something a little bit lost in the environment where we're only connecting online. And so we have to find other ways to bring people together, to connect, communicate, and celebrate one another and to reinforce the big things that matter to your audience so that you can retain the best, motivate them, and engage them. And again, we're in big challenges where, again, we're in uncertain economic environments. The business environment is evolving. AI and so many other ways that we work are coming into the workplace, causing stress and concern. And that has led to more disengagement and the quiet quitting elements that we've all heard about. And even Gallup has come out with its new research, and it shows that employee happiness and employee engagement is at a 10-year low right now. So it is an appropriate time to look at what you're doing for recognition. And in most cases, people are just running those old traditional programs. It still astounds me today. Every single individual that calls Kudos, and that's probably why they call Kudos, is when I ask what they're doing, they're basically running traditional programs, years of service. It's manual. It's being managed in Excel spreadsheets. And these years of service programs that are going on right now in major milestones, most people only stay 3 to 4 years in a company, so they don't even count anymore. So there's lots of reasons to change, and and we need to look at the generational shifts, the way we work, and the low engagement that's occurring. But what we're going to cover in the next 10 minutes, just to make sure that we are respectful of everyone's time and leave opportunity for Karina to share her wisdom as well. We're going to talk a little bit about how can you evaluate if your program's working or not, if you have one at all. What does a successful program look like? And then how the heck do you sell it through to the C-suite to make sure you get what you need? And really, in the bigger picture here, we're looking at programs that need to have certain attributes like being inclusive and accessible. You need to make sure that your managers are leaning in, and you need to also make sure that you have actionable data and insights that come out of your program. And if your program isn't really measuring up to those items, or is that's where you want to go, it starts to become pretty obvious that an improvement could really help you address your business strategies, because recognition programs aren't a perk. They're a strategic imperative. They're the foundation for the success of everything else you do. And when you are looking at this, you need to consider all elements, like, does your program reach your desk and deskless workers, your remote workers, your interns, your contractors? Is it allowing everybody to be part of the program where managers are leading the charge, and but everybody can participate through the program, and and is it giving you those data insights that are going to help you improve your program and give you information that's going to help make your business better. And if you were going to put a rubric together and you wanted to look at a bunch of different elements, like here's just the top line, and I will be publishing an item on my LinkedIn profile that'll be more of kind of a message to the CEO, something that you might want to forward on to your CEO or CFO to say, hey, we've been giving a lot of thought to revamping our employee engagement strategy and focusing on a recognition and reward program that will actually drive the business impacts that we're looking for. But these are the key attributes of looking for strategic alignment. How do we make sure the program is inclusive, where managers and team members alike can and do use the system on a regular basis? How do you hold your managers accountable, like putting it into your performance metrics, and and making it more visible, so that through gamification as well as competition, people would be more likely to participate. Most importantly, the ease of use of a program is very important, and then talking to your team members and seeing what they really want. But what you'll find is they'll want more daily recognition, more consistent recognition, and recognition in a 360 way. making sure whatever system you do pick up, data and measurement's important. And, as long as it's driving the business impact and you keep coming back to that. And then even with the reward strategy, making it as fair and flexible and open as possible so that everybody in all your generations and all of your work environments are receiving the benefits that come from it. We always say points aren't the point, and we see rewards as being more of a nice reminder that you work for a company that cares about you, but the recognition is what really counts and what people are really looking for, especially the newer generations. So when you're looking at a program, there's like that other page had lots of things on it to consider, but the things that you do need to be looking at is, making sure that you make a good business case and you get that leadership buy-in from the C-level to your directors, to your managers. And once you have their buy-in, the team will follow. It should align very closely to your core values, characteristics, attributes, and behaviors that you want to reinforce, because it does become a teachable platform where people start to see what good looks like, and when they see it, they'll replicate it. And then the consistency, so that it reaches everybody wherever they work, however they work, making it systemic so that it's integrated into your other communication platforms, and also highlighted and featured in in person, like whether you're having monitors on the wall in your office to regular outreach and campaigns that are reinforcing it so that people are coming back to it, because that creates that frequency and meaningfulness that people are looking for. And of course, the data-driven insights are very, very important. So we always say, focus on, oh, my alarm's going off because I got 5 minutes left. Hey, Siri, turn off the alarm. That's how it works.
You don't have any alarms.
But so we always say, make sure your program's simple, systematic, and systemic. So it's part of everything in your program. And then when you do go to the C-level to talk about how you want to get that approval that you're looking for, because the biggest thing that we see all the time is budgets get postponed or cut when it comes to recognition, because the C-level doesn't see the strategic imperative, because often the business case isn't made in a way that gets it across the finish line. So what we would recommend is you got to make a good ask. You have to say, we're proposing to replace our outdated, underutilized program with a modern data-driven system. You have to highlight, why status quo isn't good enough. It's time consuming. The number one thing we always hear from our folks is that they waste so much time running outdated, ineffective programs. It's just ridiculous. So anything we can do to improve that, make it more consistent, make it more automated, and make it more visible is very important. And then taking it into the strategic outcomes that you're looking for, like boosting retention. There's tons of stats out there, like where Gallup highlights how 69% of employees said they'd work harder if they were recognized more often, where SHRM is saying that improved recognition can reduce turnover. Other groups are highlighting how it drives engagement and productivity, to overall strengthening culture and performance, and even creating a stronger brand where you can win awards with inspiring workplaces and show everybody in the world that you are doing great work to attract those best folks. And then, you do need to talk about the cost of inaction, some program ROI elements, but it does come down to, the risk of doing nothing, because it's not what's the ROI of the product, but what will it cost us if we don't do this? And then once it's all done and laid out in a strategic way, budget approval is much more likely in that scenario. So, evaluate your culture, elevate your culture, reducing turnover, enabling better management, improving performance, and delivering value and an ROI. You can't lose if you go into that recognition, and then highlighting that recognition isn't a perk. It is a performance strategy and imperative to all businesses today. So that's really kind of the highlight, I wanted to share with everybody, and we can answer questions at the end of the talk. So back to you, Matt.
Thanks very much, Tom. Lots of questions I've jotted down. I'm sure the people watching have also done so. Quickly before we say goodbye for now, love the Siri alarm. I'm not sure you did, but that's the first time that's happened, and it definitely won't be the last. The way we're all using technology, so you've made a little bit of history there, which is great.
Right.
Thanks for the plug for the awards. Very grateful. But lots of questions and created by thought-provoking content. So we will see you shortly, Tom. Thank you very much.
Betcha. Appreciate it, Matt. Cheers.
Fantastic. So on to our next storyteller. And Christina, I should have checked how to pronounce your last name, Christina, but I'm married to a half Czech woman, so I'm gonna have a plug here. Christina Ivanova is head of employee experience, engagement, and internal communication at Beyond Employee Engagement Consultancy. With over 20 years of experience in HR and internal communications, she has built a reputation for developing award-winning strategies, reduce turnover, strengthen culture, and align employee experience with business goals. She is also the author of Beyond Employee Engagement, a practical guide for leaders looking to create meaningful purpose-led workplaces. As also one of our amazing judges for the Inspiring Workplaces Awards in the Middle East region this year, and very grateful for her time doing that. In today's session that we're about to get to, Christine is going to explore the role of employee advocacy in building an authentic and engaged culture. Big fan of advocacy at this end, so can't wait. She's going to share 10 practical strategies for empowering employees to act as brand ambassadors, using their voices to strengthen internal cohesion, attract talent, and foster a sense of shared purpose across the organization. Very important. So please welcome Christina.
Thank you very much, Matt. My pronunciation was perfect, spot on.
Oh, you're very kind.
Yeah, power to the Eastern European women.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm going to leave you to it, and I'm really looking forward to your talk. So over to you.
So thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure to be associated with Inspiring Workplaces, and really to most recently become part of the judging panel for the Middle East and Africa region. I must say that the nominations that I've been through in the past month have been absolutely more than inspiring. So kudos to you for finding these organizations, because what they do for employees and beyond, employees' families, as well as the communities that these families live in, is phenomenal. So well done to you, and to the entire team, of course, and please keep it going. You're doing an amazing job. So thank you for the introduction. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to our listeners, wherever you are in the world. I am currently located in Dubai. It's the 21st happiest country in the world, as currently we just recently saw the most up-to-date happiness report come out a couple of weeks ago. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about employee advocacy, about employer branding, and as Matt said, how can organizations create their own employee advocacy program. And I love what Tom said earlier about recognition, and I'm gonna borrow that, which is, I've written it down. What will it cost if we don't do this? So not just recognition, but what will it cost if we don't create an employee advocacy program? Or at least, if it's not a structured program, what will it cost if we don't focus on employee advocacy? And for those of you who don't know what employee advocacy is, we will go into that in a couple of slides. But before we go into that, Matt, thank you for highlighting my new creation, my book, Beyond Employee Engagement. In this book, I talk a lot about the entirety of the employee experience and that journey and the different touch points as created by Gallup. And the first topic that we're going to talk about, of course, is why should HR care about employee advocacy? But not only HR, why should managers, middle managers, leaders in general care about employee advocacy. And what happens if we do create a structured program around it? What happens to the brand? What happens to our employer branding, to the people that we attract, to the customers that we attract as well? So when we're talking about attraction, you can see from the slides that attraction is, of course, the initial stage of the employee advocacy or of the employee experience journey. And usually the attraction phase is helped or influenced by employer branding. Once and if the employee has been hired and onboarded, we then transfer into employee branding. So employer branding is what potential employees or the regular population, what do they think about your brand as an employer? And employee branding is, what do employees think about your brand now that they have been onboarded? And of course, we're out there selling the dream, come and work in our company. But is the reality, once you get to that organization, does that reality align with what's been sold to you? So are you living that dream? And of course, when it comes to employer branding, that also transitions into employee advocacy, which is employee advocacy really, in short, is what do people say about your company now that they're working in your company? And we're going to look at employee advocacy in the sense that it creates and it generates brand exposure, whether it's your organizational brand or your employer brand. It helps to embody the company's best interests, and it recommends products and services. So if we're looking at it from a business point of view, not from an HR point of view, we're looking at employee advocacy because it helps to make money, and it also helps to promote the brand. So 89% of C-suite marketers recognize that using employees as influencers holds immense value for their businesses when they're integrating them into the marketing strategies, which is because they're free, they're informed, so that the employees are doing the marketing for you for free, they're informed, and they're impassioned influencers. So someone that potentially has really no material interest in promoting your brand. And according to LinkedIn research, the collective network size of your employees, listen to this, is on average 10 times larger than your company network yourself. Now, we're talking about on average. We're not talking about humongous conglomerates and multinationals. We're talking about small enterprises, medium to small, and even large enterprises. So the collective network size of your employees, whether it's on LinkedIn or any social media platform, is 10 times larger than that of your company. This says a lot. So this is one of the reasons why organizations definitely will benefit, and it will cost if they don't create and nurture and improve an employee advocacy program. And how do we do that? We're going to talk about it a little bit later. But first, when we're talking about an employee advocacy program, something that is important to mention here is that employee advocacy is heavily fueled by pride. We're talking about creating a workforce and sustaining this workforce to talk well and to talk in a positive light, to be positive influencers about the organization that you work in. And how are they going to do that? How is it going to be authentic? And even more importantly, how is it going to be sustainable in the long run? So something, of course, that Tom was recently just spoke about is, of course, the importance of recognition. And I'm going to, add on to that, which is, of course, the importance of pride in the workplace. Now, pride, we're talking about pride of the work that you do as a person. So feeling personally proud and proud of the work that your company does. Both of these types of pride, they influence motivation, and employee engagement, of course, we know is driven by motivation. So if you're proud of the work you do, if you have that intensive drive that I was talking about it with a colleague of mine today, the drive that it gives you that emotional connection to the company. Yeah, if you have that drive, if you are recognized, whether it's from a peer-to-peer, whether it's top-down, if you have that drive, if you have that recognition, if you have external validation, so if your friends and family and perhaps acquaintances are talking about how awesome your company is, and of course, if you have a culture, a company, organizational culture that drives this sense of pride, these are all, I would say, excellent factors that will help you to, whether it's create or sustain an employee advocacy program. Let's look at a few of the examples that I can give you from my personal experience. I didn't talk a lot about where I come from in terms of not my nationality. We know it's Eastern European. But I want to talk about a little bit about where I began my career, and that was at Atlantis. This is one of the biggest Middle Eastern resorts. It's an integrated resort, and it employs over 5,000 people. I started my journey there in 2008, and I was in charge of employee engagement, internal communication, and later transitioned into the entirety of the employee experience. So the reason I'm sharing this slide here, you might be wondering, is not to gain Facebook followers, but to talk to you about an example, to give you an example of what we did with employee advocacy during the pandemic. I know the pandemic was 5 years ago. It still feels like yesterday to some, and to others it feels like it was decades ago. But yes, 5 years ago is when this picture was taken, and the reason why I've included it in the presentation today is because I feel particularly proud of the way Atlantis handled the entirety of the pandemic lockdown and also the coming back to work, and more so even the way that we as a team, a leadership team, an HR team, and also a wider team took care of the team members, and the way that the team members took care of each other. Something that we did is we felt that there was a lot of sense of pride in the Atlantean spirit. And something that we did is we had a Facebook page for Atlantis employees, and we created these banners. I'm proud to be an Atlantean. And and we encouraged everyone to change their banner on their Facebook if they felt that. And from statistics point of view, we had over 70% of the employees that were on Facebook to change their banner. And this is a big motivator when it comes to feeling that sense of pride. And of course, once you feel that sense of pride, people automatically want to brag about where they work and what they do. So if you don't have the time, the budget, the know-how, or even the manning to create an employee advocacy program, at least help to instill that sense of pride. And then the employee advocacy will come in a natural way. So let's go on to the next slide. And in the next slide, I'm going to give you some tips about how to create such a program. These are from experience. They're not something that I've searched online and quickly put together. They're tried and tested. And I'm sure that many of you will agree with me, and you will really feel, you will agree with what I'm talking about here when I talk about the fact that we need to get, first and foremost, we need to get the culture right. And the reason I've written culture with the first 4 letters as cult in large is because if you think about a company culture, it is kind of like a cult, hopefully a positive cult. But the leaders, the influencers within the company, they help to create that culture. They help to drive that culture. And whether it's good or bad, or negatively influential or positively influential, we're talking about the fact that we should get the culture right first. And once the culture is embodied and felt like meaningful and purposeful, like what Tom was saying earlier, once you feel that sense of meaning and purpose, you will naturally gravitate towards being an employee advocate. So let's look at a few tips, of course, once the culture has been created, or it's, culture is an ongoing process, right? But getting it right from the roots is the crucial factor, or from a change management point of view. So we can then create pillars. Yeah, these pillars would help to drive the employee advocacy program, and super crucial, ownership and empowerment of the HR and marketing team to drive that program. Something that Tom also mentioned is leadership buy-in. He mentioned it from a reward and recognition point of view. I'm going to ride on this wave and also talk about the fact that leadership buy-in in an employee advocacy program is essential. And often leaders might not necessarily be as good with social media as the younger generation are. This is why it's important to coach them and to also train them on how to do it well. Sometimes you find amazing leaders. The other day I saw the CHRO of Emirates Group. He had posted something on LinkedIn which it really caught my attention. He had 80,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is quite a large following. If you're not a celebrity, of course. And, he spoke about the importance and the responsibility that he carried with this large network. And, this is something that we must all keep in mind when we're talking to our leaders, when we're training our leaders and encouraging them how to be great employee advocates. And once employees see that the leaders are engaged in an employee advocacy program, then they will feel a little bit more relieved and a little bit better about posting themselves, right? So because sometimes, depending on the company culture, some cultures do not encourage, they don't make it easy for employees to really become advocates. And here we're not talking only about social media employee advocacy, but we're talking about face-to-face advocacy. We're talking about potentially going and being a speaker at a conference. Some companies make it extremely hard, and the idea is to create a framework, a structure, training, and guidance around it, so we can enable and empower the wider team. What do we do next? We have to educate colleagues, of course, about what is employee advocacy, what is employer branding, what is in it for them. Yeah, many times we think about it only from a business point of view, but if you show people what is in it for them and you encourage them to see why becoming a company advocate or an employee advocate has a positive influence on their career in terms of being seen as a thought leader or a subject matter expert, or just simply for gaining a following, or being seen within the company and being in the leadership kind of line of vision when it comes to promotions, because you're automatically seen now as a thought leader, as a subject matter expert, especially if you know what you're doing in terms of sharing on social media or appearing as a speaker or, doing a webinar, for example, right? Like today. So colleagues or employees will become sustainable and authentic employee advocates if we absolutely emphasize and help them to understand what's in it for them, how their personal branding will become positively impacted through what they're doing. What else? So, of course, social media policy, but this can also be, made bigger, not just from a social media perspective, but also an entire employee advocacy program. And, of course, talking to people about a culture of sharing and a culture of communicating positively, ideally. We spoke a little bit more about training colleagues, and how do we empower them to share? If we look earlier when I spoke about the employee experience journey, the next step, of course, in the journey is after employer branding or attraction is the hiring and the onboarding. Yeah, so creating an employee advocacy program which is communicated from as early as onboarding is crucial, because your onboarders, those that start new in the organization, they're within their honeymoon period. And if you create an amazing employee pre-boarding and onboarding journey for them, they're going to want to brag about it. Yeah. So I think we can all ride that wave. Next, we have a few more points, which is creating an employee engagement calendar. So creating content for people and helping them to share it. And last but not least, creating employee brand ambassadors that will work with, it could be on a weekly basis that they can meet, or on a monthly or quarterly, but having those brand ambassadors to meet and talk about what is going well in the program and what is not going well. This helps to help keep the program alive. And more importantly, it helps to it helps us to improve whatever we need to improve on, stop, start, or continue. So a few reasons why LinkedIn should be taken seriously. I use a lot of LinkedIn from an employer branding perspective. There's a lot of statistics up here. I will not read all of them, but I will read just a couple which are very close to me. So 76% of individuals surveyed that they say that they're more likely to trust content shared by normal people rather than that shared by brands. And 68% of talent acquisition leaders agree that LinkedIn is one of the most effective tools for spreading the employer brand awareness. I'm not sure if Matt and the team will be sharing these presentations. However, if they won't be, then I will definitely share it on my LinkedIn profile in the shape of an article or simply as slides. So if you're interested to go through more of these statistics and numbers, I'll be sharing them within this coming week. I'm not going to go through the slide in detail, of course, there's a lot of information, but the reason I've put it on is because I wanted to share the type of social media content that the employees find most engaging and most likely to share. And that is in order: educational content, employee updates, company content, trending topic commentary, and giveaways and challenges. So those are really your safe bet when you're thinking, what can I give them? What can they share? Try educational content. That's the most popular one. Now, for some of you who may have questions with the algorithm on how LinkedIn promotes and puts a spotlight on your post, a company page, on average, company posts reach 3% of the company followers. So having employees comment on a company post instead of sharing it, just simply sharing it, will have 8 times more impact. Likes versus comments. Yeah, this might be a common question. Likes increases the reach of the post by 2%. If you add a comment, it is 4 times more powerful. So encourage your team members to like and comment. Links, if you have external links, they have a 50% less chance of being seen if you include an external link in your post or in your employee post. Hashtags, less than 30 reduces your reach, but more than 5 also reduces your reach. So there needs to be a balance. And polls are very popular. On average, they have 200% more reach. Measurement, crucial when it comes to your employer brand, your employee advocacy. Measuring how you're doing is essential to, of course, everything that you're going to continue doing with the program. So you can measure your employer brand or your employee advocacy through a reputation tracker. There's more information on that on my website. I will talk to you about that in a minute. But also, how do the numbers that HR measures, what kind of story do they tell? So Are you looking at your absenteeism figures? Are you looking at your employee turnover? Are you looking at, for instance, employee relations issues? So how does that translate, and how does that correlate with your employer brand and your employee advocacy program? Are there loud advocates? How many? What do they say? What do they not say? Another one of my favorites is, do you have an employee referral program? If you do, is it working? And if it's not working, then why isn't it working? That's a really good measurement or a metrics that you can use to analyze and understand a little bit more about how you can run an employee advocacy program. Do people return to work for your company? Because once you've left the company, you continue to be an employee advocate, whether you're a good one or a bad one. So do people return? Would they return? And how do they influence the brand? Last but not least, here is a shameless promotion. So you can visit my website and either get 2 free chapters of my book. You can sign up, or you can purchase my book from Amazon or any of the online platforms like Barnes & Noble, Kindle as well, really any platform that sells books. And I talk a lot about employee advocacy, employer branding within the book itself, and also in a specific chapter. There's an entire chapter on it, but not just in the book. There's also some free resources, some great resources about an employee a reputation tracker, about how you can build an employer brand program, an employee advocacy program. So all these resources are free on my website as well. And if you do not have an employee advocacy program, what do? So gather the stakeholders, create some guidelines, and consider a pilot program. If you do, however, have a program, what do? Well, let's do an audit, let's do a survey, and further training on how to improve it. And my last slide, I think maybe can kick us off into question and answer, or we can leave it for maybe Matt's section, and I think we can answer this from both from a reward and recognition perspective, as well as from an employee advocacy program. What is the one thing that you commit to as a result of today? Yeah, we can either talk about that, or it could be something that you can think about.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. A lot there to unpack, and have me. Let's bring Tom back in as well, if we can. Hello, Tom. Hello. So all 3 of us are back. So we've got about 12-13 minutes before we wrap up. Like I was saying, a lot to unpack on both. And if there are questions from the crowd, then let's get them in as well. But advocacy has always been a passionate element to me. Where I started before we started the awards a decade ago was around, well, even longer. I'm getting old now. Around word of mouth recommendations, and the power of recommendations, and obviously since social media's started, that people set expectations in the right place. So employee advocacy is so important, because if you're referred to by somebody you know, they're setting the expectations. Well, hopefully they can be exceeded. So you're bringing on people that can become advocates much easier than if a brand is setting that the employer brand is set too high. You could just be creating a whole army of employee detractors from the off, which is a very important starting point, as you discussed. I'm going to try and rattle through my observations and then rapidly try and get to a question. But you can see the passion in this one for me as well. But I love the quote by Henry Ford, not training them and having them stay. And it was clear that you really do still have that pride to be an Atlantean. And I wrote down the whole trust factor of a person versus organization. In fact, our first ever North American Inspiring Workplace winner 10 years ago, when it was the Employee Engagement Awards, was actually Ford. And one of the reasons they went on to win was their employee referral program for employees, and a specific truck made that truck the #1 selling car in North America. So that's the power of not just bringing people on and working well, but to the business, that actually had a huge impact on the bottom line. And that's why they were the #1 workplace. And I'd forgotten that until now. So the last, trying to bring it to a point really, was having the focus of wanting your people to become advocates is a great way to drive a people first culture. Because as you said, culture is an ongoing process. It's our behaviors with each other on a day-to-day basis, how leadership behave, it's how we act. So if you're trying to create advocates, you're trying to build trust, you're trying to build pride in the brand and the business, help people understand your purpose and your values, and you're creating a sense of belonging around all of that, that then creates, positive outputs like community, communication, referrals, high performance. But on the flip side, and I think we'll both now reference Tom, and what's the cost of doing nothing? If you're not trying to do that, you can be creating employee detractors. And going back to my communication days, Tom and I are kindred spirits there. The danger of creating detractors and not trying to build trust and that positive people first culture is that negative word of mouth is 4 times more powerful than positive word of mouth. So in the world that we do live in, where it's turbocharged on mobile devices and social media platforms, it will take 4 people to say a positive thing once they've heard a negative thing. They will need to hear 4 positive reviews or recommendations to get that one negative out of their mind. So it's vital, the work you're talking about, Christina, to create advocacy. And it is not just advocacy on its own. I think it sits at the heart of everything. So I really, really appreciate your talk on that. Is there a question in there? Probably not, but I'm going to ask Tom if he's got a question for you based upon what he's heard. And I will also ask if there are questions from the crowd. And then I do have a question for Tom.
Absolutely. Christina, great talk. Really enjoyed, all of the points, and the fact that, making sure that you're meeting your employees where they are and creating pride in what they're doing. And pride is a great word to use that. And often that'll come from, making sure that they have opportunities to learn and grow, and opportunities to advance their careers, and knowing that they're seen and valued, but also seeing what impact their role has in the overall success of the company, so that they can tie that together. But, is there anything that, one simple piece of advice that you could give everybody that they should start doing today that could make a difference, just in a kind of a ripple effect?
Yes, listen.
I like it.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question to both of you. And Tom, incredible content that you presented. And I'm going to go back to the beginning,
Sure.
where you mentioned 2008 and being a leader at that point. We are, without being political, we are clearly, as employees and employers, going through a very tough period. We do not know how long that will last from day to day. Do you have, and this is to both of you, do you have tips for leadership right now to navigate these uncertain times in a way to try and prevent damage to the organization's culture?
Christina, would you like to go first?
I want to add on to what I said earlier, which is listen. I was very brief, and that's not a characteristic of mine. I'm talking about a listening journey. I'm talking about not just an employee engagement survey once a year or pulses every couple of months, but I'm also talking about qualitative and quantitative. I'm talking about interviews, discussions, informal luncheons, meeting people in the corridors, meeting them in their own space where they don't feel that they're threatened because they've been invited to the CEO's office for tea, or any of these other cool programs that we might have. But it's creating a listening journey, purposeful listening journey throughout the entire year. So a calendar with a listening journey that combines all these aspects of qualitative and quantitative listening. and of course acting on that. That is something that, it helps everyone with all aspects of the employee journey and the customer journey.
Fantastic. Tom, over to you.
Yeah, just on the other side of that coin is communicate, like listen, but also communicate. You need to create, transparency and trust in uncertain times, because if people don't have information, they'll fill in the gaps, and that can be the gaps you don't want filled in. So focus on those types of things, but there are always good times and bad times. Like if you look back in history, every 5 to 8 years, something crazy is going to happen. And you need to prepare now and create consistency in all of your approaches. Double down on treating your people well, trusting your people, and giving them that moral direction and business direction you want. And then just keep it consistent, because you can't run to the rescue when things are bad and then try to fix something. It's like, are you bailing or are you sailing? Like if you come back and always are trying to bail out the boat when things are bad, you're not getting anywhere. You want to set it up so that everything's working the way it should, and set your sails and go where you need to go to succeed in good times and bad.
Fantastic. Last question from me, because time is running out. I guess again back to your talk, Tom, with regards to the business case right now, and yes. I asked that for the people listening. We know budgets get cut, and it's not to be gloomy, but try to be real and helpful. Sometimes budgets are cut. What's the business case right now to your boss to not cease investing in people?
Well, there's always money. You just have to make a good business case for it. And the biggest item is just if your goals and your performance metrics are in jeopardy, like you're not going to be able to hit the sales you want, you're not going to be able to hit the customer satisfaction scores, because everyone's under stress and everyone's concerned about themselves, concerned about their business, and so you just need to hunker down and reinforce and be optimistic and positive with your team, improve that communication, so that people know what's going on. And it's just a scenario where there's going to be good times and bad times. Just set yourself up to weather the storm in these situations by putting in systematic and hopefully highly optimized systems that can save you time and will help you get the performance outcomes that you're looking for. And that's how you'll get the money, is talk to the folks about that.
And Christina?
I was distracted by Siri or that alarm.
Yeah, no, just someone trying to call me. It always happens right in the middle of something.
Matt, what's your question?
It was, the business case right now for making sure people continue to invest in their people.
I'm going to throw it back to say, if they don't invest in their people, what will happen? I really love that question.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I agree. So we're coming to an end, and I think just going to wrap it up and then hand over to you both for the final word. But I think really, really nice answers to the questions at the end there. We're listening and communicating, both sides of the coin. By doing that, you actually create conversations, and conversations is the number one way of building trust. So really nice flow there, and doing it consistently. So in good times and in bad. And I think that really hits home right now. We've become a very binary world, I think, especially on social media. You're either right or wrong, or you agree or disagree with me. And I actually think, whilst I hate that personally, because there's nuance and balance and everything, right now I think there will become if you stood by your people or you didn't. So I think if you move it forward 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, if you haven't done the right thing at the right time, it's going to hurt you. So, make sure you do the right thing and try and look after your people the best you possibly can. So, would you like to have a final comment before we wrap up this Power Hour? Over to you, Christina, I think, as Tom led off.
Yes, definitely. What I would encourage leaders to do is a lot of the times these webinars or conferences that talk about employee engagement and the employee experience, reward and recognition, all these business cases behind the drivers of discretionary effort, a lot of the times they are frequented by HR professionals. So what I would urge HR professionals that are listening or watching is really the next time they decide to attend a webinar or to go to a conference, invite 5 leaders with you, especially if they're free. Yeah. But from those 5 leaders, maybe 1 will attend. But the way we create great leaders is if within this community, we all know what we have to do, right? It's how do we influence, how do we get this buy-in that we keep talking about from the leadership team? Have them come, have them listen, have them just hear the business case behind it, not just from a conversation or from a proposal. Let them be within our world.
Love that. Fantastic.
Yeah, and the only final thought I have is that, this is a conversation that we could carry on forever because there's lots to talk about. So from that standpoint, I imagine with Christina and even myself, do reach out to us on LinkedIn, connect with us. We can carry the conversation on there. There's going to be some great content on both of our sites, published information from the deck to just articles and things that you can share, to the senior leadership and other leaders to rally everyone around the right things to do. So look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much for the knowledge you've imparted. So that's the first Power Hour over with. We've got plenty more to come this year. The second one is coming up on May the 7th around employee experience. And then shortly thereafter, we will start to announce our winners around the world are up for the Inspiring Workplace Awards. So starting in the UK and Ireland and Europe, before heading all over the world, Asia, the Middle East and Africa, Latin America, to North America, and then ending down under in Australia and New Zealand. So there should be a lot of inspiring news, and we'll be bringing as many of those case studies to you in our different events as well. So trying to impart.
It's just like the British Empire, the sun never sets on working.
Oh dear. So yeah, thank you. So thanks very much for listening. We'll be back, and if you're watching on demand, we hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.